Mangwana ni malelepo vukenjani klikwas vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Betty on Thursday, the 31st of October. Now, these are some of the stories that we are looking at. University of Limpopo suspends exams due to water issues. Botswana heads to the polls with diamond downturn in focus. And Mozambique and Colombia sign visa exemption agreement. Follow all our programs on oneup2.com or DSTV 285 or GoTV 25 in Namibia, as well as Network Media Hub on YouTube. Talent Gore will join us and fill us in on the news making waves in Zimbabwe. This is Africa Good Morning. Top story shortly.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at Enjoy.
The University of Limpopo has temporarily suspended its end-of-year examinations due to the water supply issues in the province. Vice-Chancellor Professor Mahlo Mokalo said the exams will be suspended for 3 days. We regret to inform our university community that due to the ongoing and severe water supply issues affecting our campus, the university has no option but to suspend the end-of-year examinations with effect from 30 October 2024 until 1 November 2024. Mokhalong said exams will resume on Monday 4 November and a revised timetable will be communicated. Now, this decision has been made out of our deep concern for the health and well-being of our students and staff, as we find the current conditions unhygienic and unacceptable for conducting examinations or regular operations. We understand the importance of these examinations to all students and the disruption this may cause. However, maintaining a safe and sanitary environment for our university community remains our top priority, Mokhalong said. Now, Mokhalong said the university will continue to monitor the situation closely and keep students informed of any developments. The University of Limpopo said students will be notified when no more operations are expected to resume and a revised schedule for the examinations will be shared in due course. Now, Botswana started voting yesterday in an election that will determine whether President Mokgweetsi Masisi secures a second term, with slowing economic growth and driven by declining diamond demand as the central issue. Masisi's Botswana Democratic Party has governed the Southern African state since 1966 and remains the favorite to win despite the party's failing popularity. Voters elect a National Assembly with the largest party, then choosing the president. The BDP faces a fragmented opposition, with its biggest challenge coming from the Umbrella for Democratic Change, a coalition led by lawyer Duma Boko. Now, two other parties have put forward candidates for president. Voting started smoothly in the capital, Gaborone, with long queues outside most polling stations. Over 1 million people are registered to vote in the country, some 2.3 million according to the Electoral Commission. Now, the governments of Mozambique and Colombia have signed a visa exemption agreement for holders of diplomatic and service passports, an instrument that aims to facilitate the movement of officials and other individuals concerned. The agreement was signed this week in the Colombian city of Cali by the Mozambican Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation, Manuel Goncalves, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Colombia, Luis Gilberto Murillo, witnessed by the Vice President of Colombia, Francia Marquez. It was signed on the sidelines of the 16th meeting of the Conference of the Parties of the Convention on Biological Diversity being held in Cali, Colombia from 21 October to 1 November under the motto Peace with Nature. Deputy Minister Goncalves said the document represented another step towards strengthening the bilateral cooperation ongoing since 1988. Since then, our political and diplomatic relations have developed normally, which is what we want, which is good for our relations to be strengthened, Goncalves said, adding that we are currently working on building other areas of cooperation. Now, Goncalves pointed out to other sectors of cooperation such as agriculture, mineral resources, as well as energy. Beauty queen Chidima Adesina, now crowned Miss Universe Nigeria, finds herself at the heart of a heated nationality debate after the South African Department of Home Affairs announced she would be stripped of her South African identity and travel documents. The decision has stirred up questions about citizenship, belonging, and identity in South Africa. The story began when Adesina, a law student, reached the finals of the Miss South Africa pageant. However, her eligibility quickly came under scrutiny due to her Nigerian father and Mozambican mother, even though she says she was born and raised in the South African township of Soweto. In August, she withdrew from the competition after authorities revealed that her mother might have committed identity theft to gain South African citizenship. While some questioned her identity, others rallied around her, calling out the intolerance and highlighting her South African roots. Following this backlash, Adesina accepted an invitation to compete in Nigeria and went on to win the title of Miss Universe Nigeria. Now, as she prepares to represent Nigeria at the Miss Universe pageant in Mexico on November 16, the South African government has finalized its decision to revoke her identity papers, stating that she and her mother failed to prove their eligibility to retain citizenship. All right, let's get into the last of our top stories on Africa. Good morning. For the growing number of African asylum seekers and economic migrants in the U.S., the upcoming presidential election could reshape their entire future. We deserve safety, says Dr. Yves Kaduli, a 38-year-old asylum seeker from the Democratic Republic of Congo who lives in the U.S. I have a dream that I will defend those that are persecuted, he adds in a BBC interview. Now, Dr. Kaduli says that in 2014, he fled eastern DR Congo, which had been racked by conflict for almost 3 decades after being kidnapped and tortured. He had been working as a doctor at Sifunzi Hospital in Kalonga town and saw the effects of the conflict up close. Women were raped. I saw it. I felt it in my body, he tells the BBC. Dr. Kaduli says that horrified at civilian casualties, he and many of his colleagues, including Nobel Peace Prize winner Dr. Denis Mukwege, participated in protests against the killings and rapes by armed groups criticizing then-President Joseph Kabila's government for its failure to guarantee the safety of people. The medic says this led to him being targeted by unknown men. They came, they took me and another colleague by force during the night shift, Dr. Kaduli recalls, adding that they were then taken to a makeshift camp in a nearby forest where they were beaten, tortured, and threatened with death. Dr. Kaduli says that after being held for a day, he managed to escape and decided he had to get out, leaving his mother and young son behind. Dr. Kaduli says he began what would have been a 5-year journey, passing first through neighboring Rwanda, then flying to Cuba, Ecuador, Nicaragua, and finally arriving at the U.S.-Mexico border in 2019. And of course, this is on the backdrop of Donald Trump's rather xenophobic rhetoric, where he says he wants millions of migrants deported as soon as he enters office, should he manage to do so after the election. Those have been the top stories on Africa. Good morning. After the break, ZiG currency remains legal tender, says the RBZ. We'll be talking to Talent Gore about that story and more stemming from Zimbabwe.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
All right, it's time for us to talk to Talent Gore as she brings us the news stories from Zimbabwe. Talent Wamkase.
Africa.
Good morning, Africa, indeed. Now, the ZiG remains legal tender, says the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, this amid the current legitimacy storm. Tell us more.
Yes, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe has denied claims by renowned lawyer Tabani Mpofu, who said that the ZiG had ceased to become legal tender owing to the lapse of the statutes that operationalized it. Mpofu argued that the time span prescribed in statutes that gave life to the local currency has since lapsed. He said that the ZiG came through a statutory instrument promulgated by the Presidential Powers Act, whose effect lapsed at the end of 6 months. Mpofu said that the 6 months lapsed on 4 October, meaning that the ZiG ceased to be the Zimbabwean currency. He also said that it is not possible for the statutory instruments, once it has lapsed, to be validated by legislation. But the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, however, said that the central bank insisted that there was no legal gap on the gold-backed currency. They said that despite all of this, the ZiG remained the legitimate currency in Zimbabwe, and it was still functional. They said that what Mpofu is saying was not right, and that the ZiG had not ceased to be operational in Zimbabwe, but rather it is still the currency and it will not lapse anytime soon.
All right, I mean, we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that because it does seem like the ZiG has been having a rather significant nosedive, much like the other attempts at Zimbabwean currency. Now, in a rather sad story, 4 men die after taking aloe vera concoction to cleanse system.
Yes, apparently 4 men died and 2 others are hospitalized after taking an aloe vera concoction. Apparently, apparently they wanted to cleanse their system and they boiled the aloe vera. We are not really sure as to what really killed them, but a police statement said that the individuals took the concussion because they wanted to cleanse themselves. So the police said 3 of the 4 victims were identified by their next of kin, and the other victim is yet to be identified. They said that the 2 survivors are admitted at a local hospital, and people around their neighborhood are saying that they believed the men were trying to make a cleansing concussion, which opens blood vessels for better erectile functions for men. So this is what the people are saying. And in Zimbabwe, we have a saying, or we have a name for this particular concussion, which cleanses the system for men. It's called guchu. So people are saying that they wanted to make that concussion to cleanse their system for better erectile functions. So many men in Zimbabwe, to be precise, they do take this concussion. So we are not really sure as to what really killed these men. Some doctors were commenting on the issue, saying that probably they overdosed, and they also boiled the aloe vera. So we are not really sure as to what really killed them. But at the moment, we know that they made that concussion with aloe vera. They boiled the aloe vera and they drank it. So four of them died, whilst 2 of them are still in hospital.
Truly, truly saddening news. Now, in the last of your stories, Talent, ZANU-PF plans to renew talks with Britain over the pledge to fund land reform process.
Yes, the President Emerson Mnangagwa's party plans to reopen talks with Britain amid faint hopes the former colonial master could reconsider a return to its pledges to contribute financially towards Harare's reform policy. Well, this was said last weekend during the ZANU-PF National Congress, which was held in Bulawayo, in which the ZANU-PF government said that they were in talks with Britain. ZANU-PF said that in their resolutions draft, they said that they had engaged the British government to fulfill its promise to contribute financially to pay off former white commercial farmers. So we're not really sure if the British government is going to partake or is going to to consider what the ZANU-PF government wants. But right now, we know that the government has said that they are going to allocate 20 million United States dollars for the reimbursement of colonial farmers who had their farmers stripped away from them during the land reform program in the early 2000s, when when President Mugabe in the picture announced that all commercial farmers, all white farmers had should not have land, but rather the land should be given to the black majority. So most white farmers lost their farms. So right now, the Zimbabwean government is trying to compensate, is trying to repay what they did to the white farmers. So they have pledged, so far they've pledged 20 million United States dollars, and they're saying that they want to pay that money by the end of 2024. So we are not sure if the British government, since the Zimbabwean government has said that they want to talk, or they're in talks with Britain to make sure that they partake in helping the Zimbabwean government to repay the farmers. We're not really sure if Britain is going to agree to that, but as of now, all we know is that they are in talks.
All right, we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that. Thank you very much, Talent, for bringing us the news stories as they are from Zimbabwe.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
It's always good having you on Africa. Good morning. Let's have a look at the weather predictions before we return with economic news. All right, let's get into our economic news stories on Africa. Good morning. According to the Chief Executive Officer of the Malawi Energy Regulatory Authority, Henry Kashaje, unauthorized vendors are responsible for the fuel crisis which is currently ravaging the country. Kashaje, during a session of Malawi's Parliamentary Committee on Industry, Trade and Tourism, accused the black market operators of profiteering from the situation by selling fuel at inflated prices. He added that the vendors exacerbated the fuel shortage and caused unnecessary anxiety among the public. The MERA boss added that the vendors purchased large quantities of fuel and resold it at higher prices, thereby contributing to the shortages which have continued despite the recent fuel supply that arrived in Malawi. Malawi's fuel crisis has been ongoing for 3 weeks, causing widespread disruption and economic strain. Now, this crisis has led to long queues at filling stations, and black market prices have surged to 6,000 kwacha per litre, far above official rates. This has resulted in increased costs for small businesses, particularly those reliant on transportation, and has led to reduced customer demand. The crisis has also caused inflationary pressures, with prices for essential goods surging. The last of our economic news stories: tuberculosis was the leading killer among infectious diseases in 2023, the World Health Organization said in their 2024 global report. While the number of TB-related deaths decreased from 1.32 million in 2022 to 1.25 million in 2023, the UN agency said the total number of people falling ill with TB rose slightly to an estimated 10.8 million in 2023, more than 8 million of which are newly affected. Africa, however, was cited as one of the regions that made the most progress in the fight against the disease, with a 24% decrease in cases. Let's have a look at the economic indicators before Ari Hochar brings us the sport.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with tennis news first. It's tennis news from the ATP Men's Tour Paris Masters that started. It's the round of 32. It is a number 2 seed. Carlos Alcaraz, he was in action. He beat Nicolas Jarre in the round of 32 by 7-5 and 6-1 through to the round of 16. But not good news for number 6 seed. It is Andrei Rublev. He is from Russia. He lost to Francesco Gorondolo of Argentina. The score there was 7-6 and 7-6 to tie-break sets for Andrei Rublev to be out of the tournament. Also number 7 seed, another top 10 player that's out, that was Casper Ruud, and he lost to Jordan Thompson of Australia, and that was a tough 3-setter, the score 7-6, 3-6 and 6-4. It is Thompson winning that game. Better result for number 10 seed, Stefanos Tsitsipas of Greece. He beat Alejandro Tabilio, and he beat him by 6-3 and 6-4, so he's also through to the round of 16. Moving on to rugby news from the United Rugby Championship, and there will be a break now because it's the international rugby season that will be now for the next few weeks. But news from the URC is that the Munster rugby coach Graham Roundtree announced that he will no longer be the coach of the team, and it was a bit of a surprise announcement as they won the title in 2022 under Graham Roundtree. They were the title winners, beating the Stormers at the Cape Town Stadium in the final, but the last 3 games of the current season was all losses for Munster. They lost against the Sharks and the Stormers as well, and they also had a loss early in the season against Zebra, and so at the moment they're 12th on the log. The next game for Munster will be on the 30th of November. That is when they will host the Lions. To close off today's international sports news, it is cycling news, Tour de France news. The 2025 Tour de France cycling tour will be exclusively just in France in 2025. For the last few years, France also included neighboring countries like Italy, but this year, or the year coming up, 2025, it will start in Lille, that is on the 5th of July, and then finish in Paris on the 27th of July. All the cycling will be just in France, and it will be the 112th edition of the Tour de France. It will be 21 stages, and there will be 2 time trials on the 2025 tour. Also, there will be 6 mountaintop finishes, and then also it will be over 3,320 kilometers. So it's lots of cycling to be done by the world elite cyclist. And again, it is expected that this year's defending champion Tadej Pogačar will also be in the Tour de France to defend his title. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk international sport again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thank you for staying with Africa Good Morning throughout the broadcast. Let's have a look at some of the highlights from this morning. The University of Limpopo suspends exams due to water issues. Black market fuel vendors worsen Malawi's fuel crisis. DSTV 285, GoTV 25, oneup2.com, and Network Media Hub on YouTube is precisely where you can find us. From me, Ashwin Bedi, and the Africa Good Morning team, Swera Jaganaka.